My YouTube channel is nearing 200,000 subscribers. That's a lot of chess players. And my mom. To celebrate, I wanted to showcase some of this community's insane chess moves. And in the past week, I have been reviewing over 100 moves, of which I have selected 10 for this video. And let me tell you, everything that made it to this video has scored above an 8 out of 10 by my brilliance scale. So we're gonna be starting off in the low 8s, and we're not gonna be going into any of the opening stuff, going straight into the brilliant moves. Here, our friend from Tunisia played this really inspiring sacrifice. I mean, White has a sprawling attack with pieces from all over the place, but you're sacrificing the most valuable one. Queen takes f6. Sacrificing the queen, because after g takes f6, and this is what made me give it like an 8.2, is that after rook h5, black has the most valuable pieces on the board, but are completely useless as to defending this next checkmate threat. Next one of the day, easy money sniper from South Sudan. Was it South Sudan? Yes. Played this insane brilliant move, rook takes h7 check, sacrificing the rook just to open the h line. And now you bring the queen acting as the rook on this open h line, forcing the king back. And what's gonna do the job of the queen? A bishop. Now you're employing the bishop to do the job of the queen. Previously on e6, the rook has to block, check here, the king has to go to h7, and now you're taking the rook, threatening checkmate. And you're also sacking a rook here, which I think this deserves another brilliant move. You're sacking the rook, you're fleeing with your king, evading the checks, and now black has absolutely no checks left. You're giving a rook just to prevent this checkmate, and in a few moves, it was checkmate. Unbelievable conversion and original brilliant move. This was like an 8.2. Next up, what inspired me a lot is that Akdil here with the black pieces played this when he was only 400 rated. His opponent mistakenly took a pawn here on e5. The knight is well defended, that's not the problem. The issue is that this weakness, the f2 pawn, is completely hazard. Queen takes f2 check, the king moves, and now something that shocked me and the entire stream at the time. Queen g1 check. Sacrificing a full queen 2 ways by a 500 elo is insanity. If the rook takes, it's a smothered royal fork checkmate. GG's. And so the king has to take, and now we get into some sort of windmill with the bishop and knight collaborating on this useless king that has to just go back and forth. Knight f2 check, royal fork, but it doesn't end there. After the king moves back, knight takes d1 check is a discovered attack. The king has to move back. Now you can take the bishop, but you can also take another bishop for free. Knight f2 going back check, king here, knight takes d3, check again on the king, king goes back, and now you can pick up the bishop for free. And I believe in the game this is what was played. Let me just check. Oh no, in the game the rook move and knight takes with mate, which is kind of crazy. Next is Viltrututor from Malaysia, who gave us an absolute taste of what it's like to have knights around a king. First, he sacrificed his knight on h7 just to open up this king and make it weaker, so removing the defender of the pawn. King takes, and now he does a clearance sacrifice by clearing this h file and removing the knight from it. Knight f6. This also prevents the king from hiding on g8. Here you're also clearing the h6 square and also removing the defender. It's a triple type of sacrifice in one move. It's a triple tactic. Remove the defender of h6, clearing the h line. You're also preventing like the king from going back, that's also something. And you're removing the defender of the pawn on g7. Rook h3 follow-up, king back, and queen h6. I loved the follow-up of this game, which made me give it such a favorable score. Now we're threatening checkmate, and you can't do anything about it. Rook c8 was played, and we took, takes, and 3 moves later, we checkmated the king. Perfect execution, perfect chess game. Next, we have a series of brilliant moves in a closed position from Demolisher from India, and this really just surprised me all the way through. First, he makes a breakthrough with g4, which is not the best way to do this, but is very creative all the same. After h takes h5, now you're going for h6 check to close up the position. And he does. After rook h8 trying to pin this pawn and open it up, h6 closes the position, and now the king is sort of in an odd position. Kind of in a mating net, you would say. kind of if we open up this position, this king has a very low amount of defenders. And that's what Demolisher did best. Demolished this defending structure here. Bishop takes f5, sacking the bishop. G takes, rook takes f5, sacking the rook. Bishop takes, and now queen takes f5. We have sacrificed a rook for the equivalence of 2 pawns, but that doesn't matter. Once again, we see the heaviest pieces on the board, the strongest pieces, being completely useless. Check on the king forces king to g8. And now we followed up with queen f6, threatening mate. Not only do you have to see this follow-up, after rook h7, the only defense, you have to see g6, threatening the rook, threatening this, forcing f takes g6. Good thing that this was a rapid game. Demolisher had the time to figure all of this out. But after takes, queen takes, if the king goes left, you just take the rook, so king h8, and now bishop g5, the final blow. Nothing can stop bishop f6. It's completely over, and if you do try to stop the square with rook f8, there's another thing coming, which is the weakness of this back rank. And Demolisher goes with bishop f6, sacking the bishop, on rook takes, the filthiness of not even taking this rook, and queen e8. This is a perfect conversion on a double brilliant sacrifice. I rated this high 8s if I remember correctly. Next is a brilliant move from Niall from the UK. I'm just realizing this now. These are brilliant moves from everywhere in the world. Like, we're hitting every continent with these. Rook takes d5, and what went wrong for the black pieces is after castles, here the king is suddenly just in a mating net. So Niall goes with doubling rooks on the d file, rook d8, and here he was inspired by a very famous game which I have reviewed on the channel and did go viral. I will leave it right here. Adams versus Torre game, in which there was a back rank threatening checkmate, back rank threat of checkmate, pardon, and here he got inspired, queen a7. You are trying to deflect the rook off the defense of this d8 rook. If rook takes, it's just checkmate in 2 moves. Queen takes and checkmate on the king. So if you take with the queen is deflected this time off of the defense of the rook, and this is also checkmate in 2 moves. So black actually defended very well here and played queen back. The queen still defends these 2 rooks, and now white seems to be up in the air, right? Well, not for Niall. Niall goes queen takes a8, sacrificing the queen, and after queen takes, we take the rook. Queen takes, and this is just a forced checkmate combination. And let me show you the game in question of which this took inspiration from. Also doubled rooks on a rook, and you just end up sacrificing the queen in all different ways. I analyzed it fully on my channel. You can click on that. Now we're going into a very high 8s category. This category has 2 or more brilliant moves and really strong, impressive things. Like, my live reactions were like completely worth it. Here after rook c8, the problem was that white got greedy and took an extra pawn here. And after rook takes, the rook is now on a very nice open file, and we see these nice targets around the king. So bishop b5, and now you're just winning 2 pieces for the rook after this brilliant rook sack. Queen takes, and this was not what striked me. This was pretty okay, like the bishop was hanging. But okay, queen takes b7 is still fighting. You're defending your bishop. This knight is in the air. But Sir David Gray don't care. From the Scotland marshes, he goes rook takes a3, threatening checkmate in 1 move because of the queen's presence on d2. So you have to do something about it. If you take the rook, this is checkmate in 3 moves with queen b4, and this is all forced. It's checkmate here. So black defended best they could. c3 is actually the best move here. And now Sir David Gray goes again with rook takes c3, sacking the rook once more. And in the game, the king went to b1, and the game was sorted out a few moves later, and another rook sack, by the way, insanity, and just checkmate a few moves later. But I want to point out what happens if this time you accept the rook sacrifice. This is what made me give it an 8.7. On b takes, Sir David Gray has queen takes king here, and the way to continue this attack, okay, you could do rook b8, but then after the sack, it's not like insane. It's also a brilliant move, but you also have a second brilliant move, which I loved even more. Check, king here, and now knight c5 coming into the attack. The knight is coming in with like via a4 because of this pin on the bishop and queen. And if you take the knight, there's bishop e5 with checkmate. If you move the queen, let's say here, I could first of all take, but also just let in this square for my knight, maybe even check. King a2 is what the engine's saying, taking this, and it's just completely over. Like, even taking is always bad. Bishop takes c5. The lines are open on this king, and the king is found completely naked. Next is the one that took me the most off guard. During this game, MKHLF just won a full piece, and I thought this game was completely over, and it is. Like, the black pieces are completely in a bind. There's no activity whatsoever, but the final blow was such a revelation to me. I gave this an 8.6 out of 10. You be the judge if this score is accurate. Here, white played the completely unexpected and like, it's not needed, unneeded move, knight takes d5. It's a complete blowout. Here, white is threatening to take this knight with the fork and also forking the king and rook here. So you kind of have to take. So okay, knight takes. If pawn takes is the same as what happened in the game. Bishop takes now. And if you take with the pawn, which is what happened, now there's a sensational move, like straight up insane. c6. c6 is putting pressure on a pawn that cannot move. If you play like pawn takes, it's checkmate. This is what happened in the game. If you play b5, I take the rook, and I'm up a full rook. But what I loved most is that there's a third way. c6 intentionally undefends this bishop on d6. And if you take the bishop, there's now the problem and issue of the back rank. B takes c7 check. Wherever the king moves, you're going to promote that pawn. King b8 is the most fighting, and then checkmate on b8. The final two are 9.3 and 9.9 respectively brilliant move combinations. These happen once in a lifetime, and I was more than proud to exhibit this on my streams and also now on the channel. It all started when Herman was playing his brother with the black pieces, traded off this knight, and his brother responded with queen takes. Oh, such an innocent move. Now Herman replied with rook takes g2, the first of 3 consecutive brilliant moves. Rook takes g2 sacrifices the rook. If you do take the rook though, there is bishop e4 check, discovered attack on the queen, picking up the queen and ending the game right then and there. So white does the only move that doesn't give the game up, king h1. And Herman plays it anyways. Bishop e4. Sacrificing a full queen, completely undefended, on b2. And that's what happened. Queen takes b2. And now we have something called a windmill in chess, in which I can do check, king here, check, king here, check, king here, and then pick up a queen one day and be completely winning. Not for Herman. Herman found a constructive mate in 3 with only 4 pieces remaining on the board. Rook g1 double check, and this is the 3rd brilliant move in the row. Here the king takes, and now the king finds itself in a mating net, in which after rook g8, it's completely over. Bishop g4, and now rook takes g4 is checkmate. Lights out. And finally here is a 9.9 combination. This happened in an OTB game over the board in a live tournament game, which makes this somehow better. And after, it was a really quality game. Let's just run it through. So this is 11 moves of theory in which white just develops everything. And after this inaccuracy b4, white punishes the black pieces in an unimaginable way. Knight d5, brilliant move. This is pretty thematic though. In this position, sacrificing the knight to open lines is pretty normal, so I wasn't impressed at this, but after the following, it's only perfect moves, and it's only beautiful, like it's only aesthetic. King b1, okay, not this, but like the next moves. Takes. Now there's considerable pressure on this pawn. Black is in trouble, so black plays the rational move, bishop takes d5. Now, we have sacrificed the pawn. We cannot take this bishop because of queen takes queen, and we lose a queen. So what do we do now? We sacrifice the rook. You see, black had a little kinda weakness on this diagonal, pardon. If the bishop takes rook, we just take the rook, and this is checkmate. Like straight up, it's checkmate on the king. So you can take this a second way, but you're met with queen h5 check, g6 is the only move blocking, and now you sacrifice your queen for another third brilliant move, and this would have checkmate. Of course, this was played over the board, so his opponent had time to see all this and basically just surrender to bishop e7. But this somehow gave more beautiful moves than the two lines and variations you just saw. Rook takes e7 check. If the king moves to d8, it's completely over after like a quiet move like queen h3. And like this, the discoveries provided from this rook, it just makes it completely over. So king f8 is played. Thank God king f8 was played, because now bishop c4, which in my mind is more brilliant than any of the two brilliant moves we've seen so far, sacrifices the queen. Only for this bishop to eye this line on the king. Like, it's insanity. And the bishop took the queen, because the pressure mounted on this bishop is too much. And now this bishop is hanging on f3. This rook is attacked on d1, but none of the previous two phrases I've told you actually matter to this chess game. What matters is this, 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 and of course, this. White proceeds with rook takes f7. If the king goes here, it is checkmate by force. The king's in the center, but it's checkmate. Rook e1 check. Now you can do like some buffering moves, but like knight e5. The knight is pinned now. And here, down a queen. White has an absolute lights out move, knight f5. Threatening way checkmate two ways, and you cannot defend this. It's checkmate on the next move. You can try like a buffering move, but after bishop takes d5, it's completely checkmate. Like, you can't, even on bishop takes, the rook is hanging. Knight takes d6, defends the rook and checkmates the king. What a legendary bishop. Insanity. In the game, king g8 was played. And now this offers some nice discoveries. He still plays it. Knight f5. Neglecting all the discovered attacks. I mean, there are tons. He chose none of them. Knight f5. Threatening checkmate in one move. A silent move that is non-checking down a queen is out of this world when you think about it. I am doubting if this actually happened. Actually, I should actually check the source that sent me this game and like verify that this was an actual game. Like, I want the score sheet. Rook e8. And now he has a forced mate in 3 moves. See if you can find it. Pause the video to solve. Oh, it's on the screen. Okay, never mind. Rook takes g7 check. King f8. Rook g8 check. Rook takes, and now bishop h6 is checkmate. After the rook goes here, it's checkmate with 3 pieces. Down a queen for a dark squared bishop. And what's so poetic about this is that very dark square bishop that we are up is checkmating the king, and that very queen that black is up is doing absolutely nothing on this chessboard. This is a 9.9 combination I have never seen. First of all, it's a perfect game. I have never seen something quite this beautiful. We've given 10 before on the channel when it was a series of brilliant moves against Nepomniachtchi. But this is the next best thing.